China's launched a series of successful cyber attacks against the United States, most notably when they hacked the US Treasury just over a week ago. These hackers got access to the workstations of government employees and unclassified documents, so we're being told in the news. Quoting from the same article, they got access to a key used by the vendor to secure a cloud-based service used to remotely provide technical support for our Treasury Department. And this is shortly following the successful attack this summer against AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen. Sadly, this is part of the always war that's always going on between major powers. Even when there is no hot war going on between major powers, they are always trying to undermine each other to get some kind of strategic upper hand. And it's not just China against America. It's America against China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, the list goes on and on. But when you zoom out at this whole universe of cyber warfare, you realize it's kind of everybody against everyone, except a few countries have the leading edge. If you put two and two together, introduce some common sense, you realize that the US has the edge over everybody. But let's talk about the other countries first. Russia devote a lot of their resources to hacking any kind of American infrastructure that they can. North Korea, because they're completely broke, are always trying to steal something, so their motivation is financially. Russian attacks are nowhere near as sophisticated as the Chinese attacks. All they are trying to do is cause destruction in American infrastructure. They don't care about collateral damage because they are nowhere near as reliant on the American economy as China is. While China, on the other hand, is trying to infiltrate every facet of the American economy, mainly for information. This consists of everyday financial transactions and overall supply chain formations. So China isn't concerned about destruction or spreading chaos. They just want to know the inner workings so they can make the better decisions for their own economy and military and even diplomatic measures. Iran, of course, gets an honorable mention. They are guilty of the same things as Russia and North Korea, except they don't seem to be able to cover their tracks anywhere near as well as these other two countries. For some reason, nobody talks about how scary and devastating Israeli hacking attacks have been towards Iran and other parties. Israel has a long history of infiltrating every single one of their enemies' facets of military and economy. Look at what they did in the Six-Day War when they pretty much, without using computers, hacked every bit of Egyptian military and intel. That efficiency has done nothing but grow and get more sophisticated, as we've been seeing over the past few months or even the past few years with the coordinated attacks they've been able to launch successfully. And of course is the Ukrainians, who may be right up there with Israel's level of proficiency in hacking Russian networks. For example, just this morning, the Russian internet provider Nodex confirmed that the Ukraine looted their network entirely and now it's in ruins. The key differences between Ukraine and Russian styles is one, Ukraine is more decentralized. They have a wider pool of resources to choose from, while of course Russian hacking groups are state-sponsored. Ukraine's two most notable hacking groups are the IT Army of Ukraine and the Cyber Resistance Anonymous. While Russia may have a much larger army of hackers than Ukraine, it seems that Ukraine has a bit more expertise. And keep in mind, even during the times of the USSR, most of the scientists, most of the very intelligent people in leadership were actually Ukrainian. So Ukraine has the smarter people who are helped by NATO, which has much more resources than just Russia. So it's quite optimistic with Ukraine's hacking operations. Last but far from least, we have the United States, which is blamed by every single country in targeted hacking operations. The United States has been known to launch wide-scale attacks against the Chinese government, the Iranian government, and of course the Russian government. The only thing is, very rarely is the US ever caught. In fact, China has identified 51 hacking gangs that have been targeting their critical infrastructure and their government. And the most recent US government-blamed attack against China was the Aeronautical Research University in Xi'an. And as quoted from the article, these attacks are hard to report as most of them are invisible. But a shining example is when the US destroyed Iran's nuclear program over 15 years ago with Stuxnet. This malware was developed by the United States and implemented with the help of Israeli hackers, and it completely destroyed thousands of Iranian centrifuges, even though it was reporting that these centrifuges were working quite well. Remember that most coding languages are based off of C or C++, and these languages were developed by programmers in the United States. About 70 to 80% of all coding languages on the planet are derived from these two languages. 75% of all smart devices run off of Linux, which is just based off of C, which again, like I said, has its origins from the United States. 90% of the top 1 million domains are running off of servers that are powered by Linux, and 100% of all 500 of the best supercomputers in the world run off of Linux. China tried to make its own version of Linux and Unix called Kylin, and nobody really uses it. But the most crucial difference between the United States versus China, Russia, all these other countries, is that America gets to buy the services of the most intelligent people on the planet. The United States pays hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in bug bounty programs, meaning that hackers from all over the world are invited to come and hack these systems. If they can manage to do it, then they get $500,000, $750,000, $1 million, maybe even more. The financial incentives for hackers to work their magic are more generous in the United States than any of our competitors or enemies' countries, who are run by some kind of state-themed authoritarian figure. Now, it's true that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran may have more hackers all around than the United States. And that just might be the equivalent of 1,000 people with bows and arrows going up against one Abrams tank. Who do you think is going to win? I'm not saying that the United States is bulletproof to foreign hackers. I mean, they could do a lot of damage to our infrastructure and make things inconvenient for the American people. But I entirely disregard the news sources that are saying, oh, we are completely at the mercy of foreign hackers. That's nonsense. Because if we actually were, I don't think we'd be hearing about it. And the GeoHusar, the very first computer virus was Brain, and it was developed by two Pakistani computer scientists. Thanks for watching.